Chapter 7, The Expansion of the Aura. Coalescing around the spinal column are little portions of magnetic energy, which I choose to call pieces of human destiny. As a man thinks, so is he. As a man feels, so is he. As a man is, so goes his relationship with God, with purpose, and with the whole domain of life. The fabric of a man's being is composed of thought, and thought is indeed made up of the same substance as that faith once delivered onto the saints. Now, as we recognize the need to let the sense of struggle cease, we want the students to develop in their consciousness the living tides of reality that flex the muscles of true spiritual being, enabling it to take dominion over the earth. Just as Christ walked upon the waters, so humanity must learn the way of the possessor of light. It has been said that the way of the transgressor is hard, but those who possess the divine potential and exercise it in the divine way are in contact with the cloud of witnesses that from spiritual realms extend the energies of the purpose of God to the earth. There is a time in the lives of most children when heaven seems very near. Their journeys through the portals of life and death reveal the celestial truth of soul knowing, often forgotten with the passing of the years. Contact with heaven through the reestablishment of the threads of light between the heart and being of man and the living Father is beautiful and necessary if the world is to mature into an age of renewed innocence and tenderness expressed by mankind toward one another. Grace is a very special quality of God that charges the aura with a buoyant and joyous expression of heaven's beauty and wonder, continuously expressed here below and continuously expressed above. There is neither boredom nor unhappiness in the celestial state, but only a joyous sense of ongoingness that knows no defeat of sordid thought nor shame in its reflections. The miracle of eternity is caught in the web of time as man momentarily understands the power of his influence at the courts of heaven, as he realizes through oneness with his Christed being that he is the maker of his own destiny. How much help is given and how much help can be evoked from the universal is a subject in its own right. Yet I feel the need to assert on behalf of the students everywhere their friendship with those who dwell in the ascended master consciousness, in the Christ consciousness, a friendship maintained through the liaison of the angelic hosts and God-free beings, and even the tiny elementals who are involved in the very outworkings of physical manifestation. The words of the psalmist, "For he shall give his angels charge over thee, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone," are intended for every son of God. Yet the temptation to command that these stones be made bread for the purpose of assuaging mortal hunger is very great. Nevertheless, every son of God must be prepared to overcome this temptation, as the Master did when he rebuked the lie of the carnal mind with the words, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God." Just as the world has its conspiracies practiced against the sons and daughters of God by those conspirators of Satan, whose lives are literally snuffed out without their ever knowing the end from the beginning, so heaven has its own conspiracy of light, and its emissaries are conspiring to evolve the wondrous God designs which the Father hath prepared for them that love him. Now, as the celestial bower is momentarily lowered into view, the shape of things to come is revealed. When God does do his perfect work as planned, to right the wrongs of men by soul demand, and newly bring to view the hopes the ages sought but never understood, the love and sacrifice he bought. To gather sheep and consecrate all lives to higher goals and drives they little understood. He vowed the plan to sweep from man that hoary dust of ages overlaid, to make men unafraid. By love he showed to them that they should understand the power of the pen, that's mightier than the sword, and teaches all that I am, casting out all fear from those who call upon me far and near. My light beams like a star of hope, dimensions newest opening upon the words I spoke. For there is hope for all beneath the sun and star, or even moon. For all things neath thy feet reveal the way complete is ever found within my word, the precious bread I broke. For thou art mine and I am thine. Our living souls awoke. Oh, see the magnet purpose, glorious, connecting chain, eternal joy revealed as love does ever reign. Devoted ones, the pathways to the stars is found in the thread of light anchored within the heart, whence the individual auric pattern expands naturally. Man has so often been concerned with the concepts and the many manifestations of the human aura, how to protect it, how to direct it, how to increase it, how to see it, how to interpret it, that he has seldom taken into account these simple words Jesus long ago revealed. Let your light so shine before men. This light of which he spake is the light that can be magnetized through the human aura, for it is the human emanation which heaven would make divine. Therefore, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. In our studies of the human aura, which are given to those who journey to our retreats, as well as to you who are fortunate to receive our instruction, we seek to promote the same understanding that Jesus imparted to his disciples, sometimes through parable, sometimes through objective analysis of themselves and their contemporaries, sometimes through direct teachings on the law, which he read to them from the archives of the Brotherhood. His entire effort was to demonstrate what man can do and what man can be when he unites with the God flame. And I say to you today that it is to be, it is be-ness. It is to understand that you are a ray of intense light that cometh from the central sun into the world of form. This is the key to creative mastery. You must understand that you can draw forth renewed magnificence and devotion to the cause of your own immaculate freedom, and that this freedom can be a crystal river flowing out from the throne of God through your aura, which you have consecrated as a vessel of the Holy Spirit and into the world of men. You must understand that wherever you go, your opportunity to let your light, your aura shine goes with you. And that because you have being and are being, you can take the sling of enlightened fortune and fling into the world with almost delirious abandon your cup of joy that runneth over in simply being a manifestation of God. You must increase your understanding of the magnificence of flow, the flow of the little electrons in their pure, fiery state that seem to dance with total abandon and then again to march like little soldiers in precision formation, now disbanding as they assume what at first may seem to be erratic shapes, now regrouping in their intricate geometric patterns. Purposefully, man pours out into the universe the healing balm that is his real self in action. Its flow is guided by the very soul of the living God, by an innate and beautiful concept of perfection, steadily emanating to him and through him. Does man do this? Can man do it of himself? Jesus said, I can of mine own self do nothing, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he does the works. Understand that the inner fires banked within yourself by the fire of the Holy Spirit can be expanded by your own desire to be God's will in action. Understand that these fires will act as a divine magnet to increase the flow of perfection into your aura and thence into the world. Understand that you must therefore wax enthusiastic about daily expanding your light through your meditations upon the Holy Spirit. Because it is our belief that men would do better if they knew better. We have written this series even as long ago dedicated our service to the enlightenment of the race. It is our desire to teach men that the human aura need never be a muddied sea, but can ever be an eternal seeing into the streams of immortal perfection whence cometh each man's being. One of the facts men should understand is that along with the pollution of their consciousness with impure thoughts and feelings and the emanations of the mass mind, which seem to take possession of the very fires of being and entrap them within imperfect matrices, is their desire for self-perpetuation. Hence, often the little pitiful, dark shadowed creatures of human thought and feeling will clothe themselves with a sticky overlay of qualities and conditions calculated to preserve the loves of the little self, thereby gaining acceptance in the consciousness bent on its own preservation. This is done in order to obscure the light of truth and to impugn it by reason of its very simplicity and perfection. Do not be deceived. The light is yours to behold. The light is yours to be. Claim it. Identify with it. And regardless of whether or not men may mock simplicity, be determined in your childlike efforts to mature in God. One day the divine man-child will come to you, and the aura of the living Christ will be yours to behold and to be. To follow him in the regeneration is to follow him in the sun tides of the light that he was, that he is, that he ever shall be. You cannot cast yourself upon the rock and not be broken, but this is preferable to having the rock fall upon you and grind you to powder. There are many things in heaven than men on earth have dreamed of, yet wondrous threads and penetrations have occurred and many have come home. We await the redemption of the world, and we need in our brotherhood those who, while having fallen in error, can simply trust and place their hand in ours as in the hand of God. For then the shuttle of the highest cosmic workers can move to and fro, from above to below, to carry greater instruction to the race of men, to the fountain of the individual life, where the shield of the aura is esteemed for the wonder God has made it. Next, let us talk about the shield of the aura. God be with you, each one. Chapter 8, the shield of the aura. Some men upon the planet are little aware of the need for protection to the consciousness, nor are they aware of the possibility of others creating a barrage of negative energy calculated to disturb the equilibrium of their life streams. Let us set the record straight. There are many who are at various stages of mastering the control of negative energy and manipulating their fellow men by a wide range of tactics and techniques. There are also spiritual devotees of varying degrees of advancement who are in the process of mastering the godly control of energy and who understand what the Brotherhood's systems of protection and the countermeasures they can take in defense of their own life plan. A God endeavor indeed. Upon this earth, heaven needs many who can work the handiwork of God. If a planet is to fulfill its destiny, it must have those who can work in the light of God that never fails, unhampered by the forces of Antichrist that would, if they could, tear down every noble endeavor of the sons and daughters of God. From time to time, these are and will be viciously assaulted through psychic means, whereby the garments of their individual auras are sometimes penetrated and even rent, unless they are spiritually fortified. Yet that blessed aura, when it is properly intensified and solidified with light, becomes the shield of God against the intrusion of all negative energy, automatically and wondrously repelling those arrows that fly from the dark domain, seeking to penetrate the peace of God that abides within, hence destroying peace. Let me remind all of the natural envelope of invulnerability that serves as the protection of every man against those arrows of outrageous fortune that fly so loosely in the very atmosphere of the planet betwixt men. However, through extraordinary measures, the forces of darkness are often able to engage men in some form of argument whereby through inharmony they momentarily forfeit their protection. This is the game they play to catch men with their guard down. Then again, they launch such an attack of viciousness as to cause them, through fear, to open up their words to discordant energies, which results in the rending of their garments. Earlier in the series, I gave an exercise for the strengthening of the aura through the development of the consciousness of invulnerability. Now, I would make plain that in addition to spiritual fortitude, one must also have spiritual reserves, what could almost be called reserve batteries of cosmic energy. The storing up of God's light within the aura through communion with the Lord of hosts and through invocation and prayer, plus the sustaining of the consciousness in close contact with the angels, with the tiny builders of form, acting under divine direction, and with all who are friends of light, creates an alliance with the forces of heaven. Through contact with each devotee's aura, these veritable powers of light can then precipitate the necessary spiritual fortifications that will give him a more than ordinary protection in moments of need. Let the student understand that his protection is threefold. First of all, he enjoys, by the grace of God, the natural immunity of the soul, which he must not forfeit through anger or psychic entrapment. Then there is the assistance of the angelic hosts and cosmic beings with whom he has allied himself, and his force field through invocation and prayer. And last but certainly not least, there is the opportunity to request of his own presence the continuation of godly defense through an intensification of the tube of light that will also establish in his aura the needed protective strata of energy which create a protective concept that cannot be penetrated. Bear in mind that sometimes the best defense of man's being is a necessary offense. And when you find that it becomes necessary to momentarily engage your energies in this way, try to think of what the master would do, and do not allow your feelings to become negative or troubled by your contact with human discord of any kind. If you will consciously clothe yourself with the impenetrable radiance of the Christ, asking yourself what the Master would do under these circumstances, you will know when to take the stand. Get thee behind me, Satan, and when to employ the tactic of gently holding your peace before the pelate of some men's judgment. Remember always the goal fitting that is required of those who would remain on the path. You did not begin upon the path in order to become involved in strife. You began in order to find your way back home and to once again hold those beautiful thoughts of celestial fortitude and cosmic intelligence that would create in you the spirit of the abundant life. Birthless, deathless, timeless, eternal, there springs from within yourself the crystal fountain of light, ever flowing, cascading in its own knowingness of the joys of God that create a chalice from which can be drunk the very water of life. Freely you have received, and freely you must give. For the heart of each man can gather quantities without measure of this infinite love in its superabundant onrushing. There is an erroneous thought in man that I must decry. It is the idea that man can get too much of spirituality. Oh, how fragile is the real thought of truth about this subject, and how easily it is shattered by human density and the misappropriation of energy. Man can never secure too much of God if he will only keep peace with him, with his light, with his consciousness, with his love. It is up to each one to do so, for no one can run the eternal race for you. You must pass through the portals alone. You must be strengthened by your own effort. And you must also face the dragons of defeat and darkness that you once allowed free reign in your own arena of thought and feeling. Slay these you must by the sword of spiritual discrimination, thus building an aura of use to the masters of the great white brotherhood. Of what use is an electrode? Like the hard tip of a penetrating arrow flying through the air, an electrode becomes a point of release of giant energies that leap forth to conquer. And there are many things that need to be conquered. Above all, there are within oneself conditions of thought and sensitivities of feeling that require man's dominion. The man of whom I speak is the heavenly man, the man who abideth forever, one with God as a majority of good. His heart must not be troubled, and The injunction of the master, let not your heart be troubled, must be heeded. For the aura is a beautiful electrode that can become of great use to heaven, and it must be consciously strengthened if man is to truly realize his potential. Won't you understand with me the need to be the shield of God, to remain unmoved regardless of what conditions or difficulties you may face? For it is the power of heaven that liveth in you to strengthen the emanation of light from your being, both from the within to the without, and from the without to the within. You can receive both from without and from within of the strengthening light that maketh man truly aware that he can be, in his aura and in his very being of beings, a shield of God, impenetrable, indomitable, and victorious. I remain firm in the love of the purpose of your being. Chapter 9. The protection of the aura. Beware of those who by intellectual argument or religious dogma seek to destroy your beautiful faith in the gossamer veiled protection of the angels. By his unbelief, man has failed to realize the magnificent protection that the human aura can receive from the angelic hosts. By his lack of recognition and his lack of attunement, he has allowed himself to pass through many harrowing experiences that could have been avoided by a simple cry for assistance to those beings whom God ordained from the foundation of the world to be his swift messengers of love, wisdom, and power. Have you thought upon the love, wisdom, and power that the angels convey? May I suggest that you do it today? For over the track of your thoughts and the extension thereof into spiritual realms, over the swift and well-traveled pathways of the air, these infinite creatures of God's heart, serving so gloriously in his name and power, fly on pinions of light to do his bidding and to respond to your call. What a pity it is that some men lack the sweet simplicity of heart and mind that would allow them to speak unto the angels. By their sophistication, their worldly wise spirit, their hardness of heart, and their refusal to be trapped by the plots of heaven, they literally cut themselves off from so much joy and beauty, and their lives are barren because of it. Will you then begin today the process of initiating or intensifying your contact with the angelic host as a means of fortifying your aura with what amounts to the very substance of the outer corona, of the flame of God's own reality directed and glowing within the auric fires of the angelic hosts? How they love to receive the invitation of mortal men who desire to align themselves with the purposes of God. And do you know these powerful beings cannot fail in their mission when they are invited by an embodied flame of light, a son of God, to come and render assistance? Once mankind understands this fact, that the angelic hosts will respond to their calls, once they understand that these emissaries of heaven are bound by cosmic law to respond to their pleas and to send assistance where it is needed, they will also realize that even Christ availed himself of the ministrations of the angels throughout his life. Standing before Pontius Pilate, he said, "Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels?" The angelic hosts are the armies of God, the power, the service, the perfection, and the strength of God flowing from the realm of immortality into immediate manifestation in the mortal domain, establishing the needed contact between God and man. Consider for a moment how the Master employed the angelic hosts, not only in Jessamine, but also in his healing ministry, how he remained in constant attunement with them, acknowledging their presence in a spirit of oneness and brotherhood, esteeming them as the messengers of his Father. By startling contrast, the spurning of the angelic hosts by an ignorant humanity has caused many to fall under the negative influences of the dark powers that hover in the atmosphere, seeking to destroy mankind's peace, power, and purity. I cannot allow this series to terminate without sounding the trumpet of cosmic joy on behalf of the angelic hosts. Many of us who are now classified as saints by some of the Christian churches invoked the angels when we, as spiritual devotees, offered ourselves unto Christ in the service of humanity, knowing full well that of ourselves we could do nothing. Therefore, we look to the assistance of the angelic hosts as God's appointed messengers. We did not expect God himself to come down into the everyday situations we encountered that required some special ministration from heaven, but we knew that he would send legions in his name with the seal of his authority and power to do his bidding. How tragic it is that some men, through the puffiness of human pride, will speak only to God directly, thereby ignoring those whom God has sent, including the ascended masters and the sons and daughters of God upon the planet, to whom is given a special ordination of conveying the message of truth unto humanity. It is so unnecessary for a distraught humanity engaged in numerous wars and commotions betwixt themselves to also launch an offensive against those who in truth defend every man's Christhood in the name of God. To go forth with his power and in his name is a calling of considerable magnitude. May our protection abide with the brothers of the golden robes, serving at unascended levels, who in wisdom's gentle name would teach men the truth of the ages and thereby receive within their auras that celestial song that is the glory of God in the highest and the peace of God on earth to all men of goodwill. The message of the angels that rang out over the plains of Bethlehem at the birth of Christ has since been heard by the few in every century who have communed with the angel ministrants, yet the light of the angels is for all. How could it be that we so carelessly forget, as mankind have done, the service and the devotion of the angels directed from an octave of power and beauty interpenetrating your own? Will you then consider in the coming days and throughout your whole life the blessed angels, not only the mighty archangels, but also the cherubim and seraphim? For there are many who will reach up to the great archangels, such as the beloved Michael, Shamuel, and Uriel, without ever realizing that even they, in their great God estate, have their helpers who, in the performance of their novitiate and in their own aspirations to rise in the hierarchy of angels, will do almost any divine kindness on behalf of the children of God on earth when called upon by them to do so. All should understand, then, the need to make the request. For heaven does not enter the world of men unbidden, and the tiniest angel in all of heaven welcomes the love and invitation of men to be of service. The information I have given you can help you to consummate in your life the building and charging of an aura with a radiance so beautiful that as it sweeps through your consciousness, it will sweep out the ignorance of the human ego and replace it with the light of the Christ. Wherever you move, God moves, and his angels accompany him. Let your auras be charged with such purity and determination to do the will of God and to be an outpost of heaven, that if your shadow should but fall upon another whom God has made, healing, joy, beauty, purity, and the extension of divine awareness would come to him. You belong to God. Your aura, the garment of God given to you, was designed to intensify his love. Do not tear it. Do not carelessly force it open. But as a swaddling garment of love and light, keep it tightly wrapped around you. For one day, like the ugly duckling that turned into a swan, the aura will become the wedding garment of the Lord, steely white light reinforced by the divine radiance that no man can touch, that literally transforms the outer man into the perfection of the presence, preserved forever intact, expanding its light and glowing as it grows with the fires of home and divine love. Look at the purification of the aura. Chapter 10. Remember that your aura is your light. Remember that Christ said, "Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house." Remember that he left this timeless advice as a means of inculcating into the consciousness of the race the inner formula for the proper employment of the human aura. How many men have misunderstood what the aura is and what it can do? The aura is the sum total of the emanation of individual life in its pure and impure state. Often gently concealing from public view the darker side of human nature, the aura puts forth its most beautiful, pearly white appearance before men, as if mindful of the words of God that have come down from iniquity. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Occasionally, the aura will momentarily turn itself inside out, and the more ugly appearance of a man's nature will come to the fore and be seen by those who are sensitive enough to perceive the human aura. This shouting from the housetops of a man's errors ought not always to be deplored, for when the gold is tried in the fire of purpose, the dross often comes to the surface to be skimmed off. Therefore, when from time to time some negative influence appears in yourself or in someone else, consider it not as a permanent blight, but as a thorn which you can break off and remove from the appearance world. The fact that the within has thrust itself to the surface is an application of the principle of redemption. And when properly understood, this purging can mean the strengthening of your aura and your life. As a part of the blotting out process in the stream of time and space, dear hearts, God, in his greater wisdom, often uses exposure to public view or to your own private view as a means of helping you to get rid of an undesirable situation. Have you ever thought of that? What a pity if you have not. Suppressing evil or driving it deep within, tucking it away as though you would thereby get rid of it, does not really do the trick. For all things ought to go to God for judgment, willingly, gladly, and freely. Men ought not to remain burdened by the inward sense of guilt or non-fulfillment that the suppression of truth often brings. For the cleansing of the human aura of these undesirable conditions need not be a lengthy process. Just the humble, childlike acknowledgement that you have made an error and the sincere attempt to correct it will do much to purify your aura. God does not angrily impute to man that which he has already done unto himself through the misuse of free will. For man metes out his own punishment by denying himself access to the grace of God through his infringement of the law. Therefore, the gentle drops of mercy and of God's kindness to man are offered as the cleansing agent of his own self-condemnation. They are like a heavenly rain, refreshing and cool. That is not denied to any. Fill your consciousness then with God delight and observe how the purification of the aura brings joy onto the angels. Have you never read the words of the Master? Joy shall be in heaven over one sinner that repenteth, more than over 99 just persons, which need no repentance. Oh, what a wonderful world will manifest for humanity when the power of God literally rolls through the heart and being of man untrammeled, flooding the planet with light. Yes, a great deal of instruction will still be needed, for there are so many things that we would reveal, not even dreamed of by the masses. And there is so much ongoingness in the Spirit of the Lord that my enthusiasm knows no bounds. Yet mankind should understand that until they have prepared themselves for the great wedding feast to which they have been bidden, they cannot fully know the meaning of the ongoingness of life. For the dark dye of human sorrow and degradation create such a pull upon the consciousness that it is difficult for man to recognize the bridegroom in his God self. Alas, man, although heavenly by nature, has through the misuse of free will decreased the natural God-given vibratory rate of his atoms to such a low point that even the body temple must be broken again and again in order to arrest the cycles of the sense of sin. This breaking of the clay vessel affords him the opportunity to catch glimpses of reality, which he would never do unless he had first attained self-mastery, if his life were to continue indefinitely in one physical body. How deep and how lovely are the mercies of God! How carefully he has provided for the gift of free will to man, so that through the making of right choices, man can find his way to the throne of grace and there receive the affirmation of his own God-given dominion. Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. I am also reminded of the many devoted souls who through the ages have suffered the condemnation of their fellow men as the result of the misunderstanding of their devotion to purpose. Like Joan of Arc and others who revealed a fiery determination for heaven to manifest upon earth, these great spirits have received little welcome from their peers and little understanding of their mission. Let us hope together for the world that through the spreading abroad of the balm of Gilead and the mercy of God as an unguent of healing, mankind will become unflinching in their devotion to cosmic purpose, even as we intensify our love through the student body, tearing down any altars you may have erected in the past to the false gods of human pride and ambition, surrendering your momentums of failure to apprehend your reason for being. You will turn now with your whole heart to the development of the most magnificent focus of light right within your own aura. Oh, I know something about the angstrom units, about the vibratory rate of the aura, about its impingement upon the retina of the eye and the interpolation of auras. I know about the subtle shadings that indicate gradations of tone in the thoughts and feelings of the individual, which vacillate as a spunky wind or a frisky colt that has never been ridden. But how much better is it when, rather than label these as typical of the life pattern of another, men see at last the original image of divine perfection which God Himself has placed within the human aura? For in most people, some light can be perceived as a point of beginning, as a vortex around which greater light can be magnetized. How much better it truly is when men hold the immaculate concept for one and all, and concern themselves not with the probing of the aura, but with the amplification of all that is good and true about the real man. I do not say that advanced disciples should not use methods of discrimination to discern what is acting in the world of another at a given moment, or that the soul does not use these methods to give warning and assistance to other life streams. Nevertheless, those who are able to discern the face of God in the face of man can retain the perfect image and assist the cosmic plan, even while correctly assessing the present development of a life stream. To hold faith in the purposes of God for another until that one is able to hold it for himself is to ally one's energies with the omnipotence of truth, which intensifies both auras in the richness of cosmic grace, even as it intensifies the aura of the whole planet. I want to bring to every student the realization that just as there is the flame of God in the individual aura, so there is the flame of God in the aura of the planetary body. Every act of faith you perform adds to the conflagration of the sacred fire upon the planet, just as every act of desecration tears down the great cosmic fortification so gently and carefully builded by angelic hands who join with men and masters in service to life. Let all understand the building of the cosmic temple within the microcosm and the macrocosm. The cosmic temple of the aura is an enduring edifice of the sacred fire. The cosmic temple of the world is made up of many auras dedicated to the indwelling spirit of the Lord. Illumined thoughts and illumined feelings will enable individual man and humanity, striving together as one body, to cast into the discard pile those thoughts and feelings and actions not worthy to become a part of the superstructure of the temple of being. Oh, be selective. Oh, be perfective in all your doings. For someone is assigned to watch and wait with you until the moment comes when you can watch and wait with others. Just as the buddy system is used between soldiers in battle and between law enforcement officers keeping the peace in your great cities, so there are cosmic beings, guardian angels, and lovely nature spirits of God's heart, who watch over thee to keep thy way in peace and security, unmoved by mortal doings. For immortality shall swallow up mortality, as death is swallowed up in victory, and light shall prevail upon the planet. The strengthening of the aura is a step in the right direction. Let none hesitate a moment to take it. Devotedly and firmly, I remain wedded to the precepts of the Brotherhood. The human aura, the star of the aura. The garment of God is the most transcendent man can ever wear. It represents the highest echelon of life, the development not only of the love nature of God and of the wisdom of God, but also of the element of power. This so many seek without willing first to make the necessary preparation in the refinements of love and holy wisdom and manifestation within the soul. How easy it is for individuals to accept primitive as well as intellectual ideas that rationalize the thrust of ego upon ego, without ever analyzing the attitude and the aura of the masses who are saturated with the concept of oneness as the blending of human personalities. The oneness men should seek to understand and manifest is that of the individuality of God reflected in man. Oneness in spirit is ever consecration in the Gloria, in excelsis Deo, the glory to God in the highest. Through the linking together of the great and the trivial in human consciousness, mankind defeat ever more the manifestation of true spiritual transcendence. The ongoingness of the nature of God as it manifests in man is a study in individual development. As one star differs from another star in glory, so by the process of linking together the mediocrity of man and the sublimity of God, the latter is compromised beyond recognition. But only in the human consciousness does the ridiculous detract from the sublime. By the splitting of divine images and by the subtle process of image distortion, resulting in the redistribution of the soul's energies according to astral patterns, which nullify the original spiritual design, man begins to feel that the magnificence of cosmic ideas is in reality too far from him, and the gulf between the human and the divine too great. Thus, his consciousness remains in the doldrums of mortal experience. Wise is the Chela who guards against this invasion of the mind and heart, who recognizes those negative subtleties that seek to stealthily enter the aura and turn it from its natural brightness to darkening shadows of gray and sober hue. The strengthening of the bonds of the aura with light and virtue will enable the soul to leap as a young deer across huge chasms of erroneous ideas, separating man from God, from whence the esteem of the immaculate concept is given preeminence in his consciousness. To involve oneself in the distractions of the world and to love the things of the world, being consumed by them, deprive one of the magnificent occupation of seeking to become one with God, a cosmic occupation of permanent reality. There may be a time to plant, to water, to love, and to die. But we are concerned with the abundant life, which is nowhere more abundant than it is in the magnetic shower of cosmic Christ power that pours forth to the individual from the heart of his own God identity when he fixes his attention upon the presence and understands that herein is his real, eternal, immortal, and permanent life. As long as he, like a potted plant, sits in the limited circle of his own individuality, he remains tethered to its ranges. But once he allows the power and the pressure of the divine radiance to descend from the heart of his God presence, he becomes at last the recipient of immortal life in all of its abundance and unlimited outreach. The illusion of the self must remain an illusion until the self is surrendered. Therefore, men ready and willing to be delivered from the bondage of a self centered existence into the infinite capacities of the God self must surrender unconditionally to the divine ego. Then there is not even a sense of loss, but only of gain, which the soul perceives as cosmic worth as he increases his ability to develop in the aura the consciousness of the absolute penetration of the absolute. Physically, the very atoms of man become drenched with a shower of cosmic wave intensity, the drinking of the elixir of life, the magic potion by which a man is transformed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, the trump of true being sounds. This is God, and no other will do. The carnal mind cannot remain in command of the affairs of such a one. A Christ is born, a nova upon the horizon, one willing to follow in the footsteps of cosmic regeneration. Thus the purity and power of the presence strike a new note, and old things truly pass away as all things become new. The domain of destiny is all around us. As man evolves, so cosmic beings evolve, wheels within wheels, leading to the great hub of life and to the reality of spiritual contact as the antikarana is spun, perceived, and absorbed. How beautiful is contact with hierarchy, with the hand of those brothers of light whose garments are robes of light, whose consciousness, reflecting the anticipation of spiritual progress, is joyously attuned to those God delights that remove from the mind of man the sense of the comparable or the incomparable. The world of comparison diminishes, the world of God appears. The aura is drenched with it. No sacrifice too great, no morsel too small to be ignored, no grasp too significant not to find its own integral pattern of usefulness. And so the domain of the human aura is lost in a sea of light, in the greater aura of God. The windows of heaven open upon the world of the individual, and the showers of light energy resound as an angelic choir, singing of the fire of worlds without end. The anvil of the present is the seat of malleability. All things less than the perfection of the mind of God mold themselves according to progressive reality, plasticity, the domain of sweetness, the chalice of new hope to generations yet unborn. The historical stream, muddied no longer, appears as the crystal flowing river from which the waters of life may be drunk freely. The monad makes its biggest splash as it emerges from the chrysalis of becoming to the truth of living being as God intended. Sensing the human aura as a star, man gains his victory as he sees the universe flooded with stars of varying intensity. By comparison, his own auric light glows more brightly, for the fires of competition fan the flame of aspiration. But all at once he staggers with the realization that he is in competition with no one. For the incomparable mystery of his own exquisite being is revealed at last. Questioning and doubts as to the purpose of life no longer engage his mind, for all answers are born in the ritual of becoming. The fascination of truth envelops him, and he weans himself from the old and familiar concepts that have stifled the glow of perpetual hope within his soul. He is concerned now that others shall also share in this great energy source of reality flowing forth from on high. Naught can transpire with his consent that God does not will, for the will of God and the will of man are become one. When each man consents to this victory, the struggle lessens, and then is no more. For faith in the fatherhood of God reconciles men through Christ to the fountainhead of their eternal purpose. The glow of a new hope, infusing all, lends direction to the expansion of the auric light. The force field is magnified, and in the magnification thereof, the star of the man who has become one with God shines on the plains of pure being as the angels rejoice. A new life is born, one for whom the expectancy of life will continue forever. For in the endlessness of cycles, the aura as a glowing white fireball, a summer radiance of the fruit of purpose, continues to magnify itself in all that it does. God is glorified in the auric stream. We shall soon conclude our dissertation on the human aura. The richest blessings of our brotherhood be upon all. Chapter 12, the crystal flowing stream of the aura. The aura is a crystal flowing stream that issues from the heart of God. No negation is here, only an indomitable fountain continually pouring forth a steadfast stream of magnificent, gloriously qualified substance, the substance of life itself. As a little child presents his first freshly picked bouquet of flowers to his mother, so the innocence of the child mind tunes in with his crystal flowing stream of God's consciousness, infusing the natural aura of God in man with the life that beats his heart. O children of the day, the night should not be given preeminence. Your energy should become qualified by the eternal flow of hope that, if you will it, can enlarge its own opening into the fountain of your heart and mind, into the fountain of God's own heart and mind. Your mind must become the mind of Christ. The desire of your heart must become the desire of the Holy Spirit, flowing assistance to those awaiting the loving hand of perfection in their lives. May I tell you that when you come in contact with the dark and sullen auras of those who have misqualified the bulk of their energy throughout their lives, you ought to recognize that in reality, these are not happy individuals. They may laugh, they may dance, they may sing and make merry, they may wail and utter lamentations, they may run the gamut of human emotion, but they shall not prevail, for the law inexorably returns to each one exactly that which he sends out. The way of perfection is the natural way of the aura, but almost as a mania, individuals seldom fail to misqualify the energies of their lives, bringing their very nerves into a taut state. They become like a tightened spring of energy wound in erratic layers, and they refuse the stabilizing influencers of the Christ mind and the divine heart. Having no other energy, they are compelled to use this which they have locked in the coil of their mental and emotional incongruencies. Thus, through psychic imbalance, the spring is sprung, and the impure substance of the aura pours forth in a putrid stream. All of the delicate refinements of the soul and the natural culture and grace of the Holy Spirit are spilled upon the ground, and the kingdom of heaven is denied the opportunity to function through the individual auric pattern. To say that they suffer is an understatement, for through their own denial of the hope of Christ, they are punished by their sins, not for them. The light of God that never fails continues to flow into their hearts, but it remains unperceived and unused. For instead of flowing into vessels of virtue, those pure forms and noble ideas that retain the light of God in man, it is automatically channeled into the old and crusty matrices formed in earlier years through ego involvement and contact with the forces of Antichrist that permeate society. These patterns sully the descending light as dark clouds that filter the sunlight of being and preclude the spiritual advancement of the soul. Yet, in moments of naked truth, men and women admit their inner need, and their hearts and minds cry out for the preservation of the immortal soul within them. They fear the response of heaven, and failing to recognize the all pervading love of the Spirit, they watch helplessly as the soul, little by little, loses hold upon the steadily outpouring energies of life, for each misqualification brands them with the fruit of retribution. While for a time it seems that those who dwell in error escape the wrongs they have inflicted upon others, let me remind you that life will make her adjustments, and none shall escape the responsibility for their actions. As he whose voice was of one crying in the wilderness said, his fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge his floor, and will gather the wheat into his garner, but the chaff he will burn with fire unquenchable. We are not concerned with matters of crime and punishment, but with the joy and courage that are born in the soul through the crucible of experience, the courage to be the manifestation of God, the courage to walk in the Master's footsteps, to feel the surge of his hope wherever you are, and to know that even though you walk in the valley of the shadow, you will not fear, because his light is surging through you. Beware the sin of complacency and of passing judgment upon the lives of others before allowing your thoughts and feelings to crystallize around a given concept. Ask yourself this question: is the evidence indeed conclusive, and do you possess absolute knowledge concerning the motive of the heart and karmic circumstances surrounding other lives? If so, are you able to weigh these factors better than heaven itself? Wisely did the Master speak when he said, "Judge not, that ye be not judged." Therefore, point by point, let the Holy Spirit remold the vessels of thought and feeling that hinder your flight, and let the fruit of the crystal flowing stream, the fountainhead of life, be perceived for the diadem that it is, a crowning radiance that bursts around your head. Then the emanation of the Spirit most holy shall take dominion over all outer circumstances and, like the branches of a willow, trail upon the ground of consciousness by the still waters of the soul. The Lord comes down to the meek and lowly. His peace none can deny. His light that glows most brightly is a fire in the sky. The children hear him coming, his footsteps very near. They wait his every mandate, his word, be of good cheer. They feel a joy in knowing that deep within their hearts there is a glimmer showing, enabling all to start. Release from all earth's bondage, each weight and every care. Open sesame to being, helping all to know and share. The Lord is in his heaven, so childlike is his love. The Christ, the heavenly leaven, raises each one like a dove. His face in radiant light waves is pulsing ever new. Freedom from past error he brings now to the few. But many are the sheep, his voice each one may hear. This is his very message, wiping away each tear. Oh, see him in the burdened, the hearts o'erturned with grief, the lips that mutter murmurs, the tongues that never cease. For social clamors babble, their judgments utter bold, a child of light untrammeled, a soul made of pure gold. Each moment like a rainbow, the presence ever near, caresses in the darkness, bides all, be of good cheer. Oh, take then life's great banner, I am God presence true, and hold me for the battle, a victor ever new. For life's own goalposts show me the way I ought to go. My hand is thine forever, and fold me with thy glow. May all be reminded each day as they utter the words of Jesus, Our Father which art in heaven, or any prayer, any call to God, that the aura is the Father's light and that his Son has said to all, Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. May the sweet concepts of the living Christ, recalling a lost youth and the era of holy innocence, remind you of life's noble opportunities to be the grace and sweetness that you expect others to be. Then, regardless of what men do unto you, you will know that what you do unto them is a part of the age to be, of a mastery to become, of an adeptship now aborning. Through night and day, through time and space, through life and death, you shall remain undismayed as the outpost of delight that melts away the darkness now gathering o'er the land. Thus shall the world's tears be wiped away as the mantle of God covers the earth. Everywhere through the night, let the shafts of light right where you are pierce the gloom of the world by the good cheer of the Master. We, the brothers of our retreat, together with each master, each angel, and each adherent of the sacred fire of the living God, from their place in cosmos, beam our love to you wherever you are. We shall never forsake those who do not forsake the light of their own God presence. Eternal devotion, Kuthumi. I am Lord's Prayer by Jesus Christ. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, I am. I am thy kingdom come. I am thy will being done. I am on earth even as I am in heaven. I am giving this day daily bread to all. I am forgiving all life this day even as I am also all life forgiving me. I am leading all men away from temptation. I am delivering all men from every evil condition. I am the kingdom. I am the power, and I am the glory of God in eternal, immortal manifestation. All this I am. And so it is.